computer. Yes. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Inc. Authors Expert Q&A. I'm Christine Whitmarsh, your host, also known as Christine Inc. And this is airing exclusively for my Inc. Authors group on Facebook. So if you're watching this after the fact, please be sure and join Inc. Authors on Facebook so you can be invited to future expert Q&A sessions. And we have our expert today who, we're having some technical difficulties, so we're going to be looking at her lovely headshot, but as she pointed out so expertly right before we went on the air, expertise is expertise, whether it's in live video or not. So I am going to introduce Christine Hueber. She is fast becoming regarded as the voice for business owner and entrepreneur marketing success. After launching her first business from her tiny San Francisco studio apartment in 1997, she has grown into what is today ChristineHueber.com, a boutique global marketing firm. Christine is the #1 LinkedIn all-time top U.S. female expert and has been featured
Actually, top. Yeah.
Say it?
No, I'm the top expert.
Oh, okay. I have an old bio. All right.
Yeah, sorry.
Top LinkedIn expert ever. And has been featured. She's been featured as a LinkedIn and social media marketing expert in Inc. magazine, Mashable, Social Media Today, radio shows all over the country, and professional associations, as well as in workshops and conferences. Christine provides proven and time-tested marketing, social media, and LinkedIn success advice that consistently works, as well as programs and resources that won't be found anywhere else, to over 20,000 members all around the world via her offerings at ChristineHueber.com. And I will type that in real fast here so everybody can check in with you online later. And there we go.
Thank you so much. And you even spelled my last name right, correct. Congratulations. I'm impressed.
Very good. Well, thank you for being here. And I'm glad we made it here through all the technical things here. And then, towards the end. Yeah, and welcome everybody, and thank you all for joining us today. And I will unmute everybody at the end at the Q&A part. But in the meantime, let's chat LinkedIn.
Super. I'm so excited. And, I'm so excited because part of the reason that we're doing this today is because we've very casually kept in contact on LinkedIn.
Yes.
And we met like 10 years ago when I was talking in Reno, I think it was.
eWomen. Yeah, it was. Wow.
Yeah, eWomen. Wow. Yeah. So it was like 10 years ago, I think. So, something like that. So that's the power of LinkedIn for cultivating relationships, and just, when the time is right, then if you've positioned yourself properly, then you can absolutely, have advantages that otherwise you wouldn't have, and take advantage of opportunities. So I'm just, I'm really honored to be here, and thanks so much for inviting me to share my expertise.
Absolutely. And we've been in touch all sorts of ways. You're always very responsive to my Writer Wednesday emails, so I just want to let you know how appreciative I am of that.
Yeah, of course.
So
between emails and LinkedIn. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I would love for you to talk about, this is kind of per your bio, talk about your transition from all-purpose marketing specifically to becoming a LinkedIn expert. So when did that happen, and really what was so intriguing to you about LinkedIn that you wanted to make that transition from all-purpose marketing to specifically LinkedIn?
Sure. So I got on LinkedIn in 2006, and the economy was a little different then. And back in the day. And I was, social media was just starting, and I'd, been doing a lot of, getting on planes and flying to events and that sort of thing. And I saw social media as a way to go to, it was like a virtual event in the sky. And so I started out on Facebook and didn't really get traction there, and shifted over to LinkedIn because my background is corporate. I'm Citibank, Schwab, KPMG, and I was doing some online marketing like around 99, and I started doing it, and so I had this whole network that I developed, and LinkedIn just it was a perfect match between the conversations I wanted to have, the people I knew, my skill set, and I just dove into LinkedIn head first and applied what I knew from offline and online marketing as it was at that time, applied that to LinkedIn. And it just took off from there. And people started asking me to teach them how to use LinkedIn to get greater visibility, get business, get clients, and share their expertise. And it's now I offer training, private coaching, consulting, and I speak on LinkedIn. So it's been a fabulous journey. Technology is truly my friend, and I have clients all over the world.
That's awesome. Very cool. So since our audience here obviously is authors, tell us what makes
Right.
LinkedIn, what makes LinkedIn such a valuable opportunity for authors?
Right. So LinkedIn is valuable because one, it's another avenue for you to share what you're doing and what you're, where you are with your publishing, with your books, with your content, that sort of thing. It's a way to you can strategically share what you're offering. And LinkedIn is a more you're going to have more professional conversations on LinkedIn than you will like on Facebook or Instagram. So if you're looking for, agents or PR people or that sort of thing, they're probably more active on LinkedIn than they are on Facebook.
Hmm.
So it's and there are ways that you can share what you're doing on LinkedIn that build the buzz.
Nice. So what are some of the specific features on LinkedIn that authors should be focusing on?
Sure. So the posts are a feature to focus on on LinkedIn. It's similar to like a Facebook update. Are your authors using Facebook or Instagram?
Yeah, I have a feeling that most of my authors and my combined groups are on Facebook. I would say they're just starting to kind of migrate over to things like Instagram and LinkedIn. I've been talking about LinkedIn like crazy this year because I finally like really, really escalated my presence on LinkedIn and I've seen the results. So I've kind of been screaming about LinkedIn quite a bit. So I would say LinkedIn probably second to Facebook.
Yeah, yeah. So the power of, and you posted something from Gary Vaynerchuk this morning as well. So the power of consistently sharing content and providing value and building relationships.
Yeah.
And so on LinkedIn, like as on Facebook, and it depends too on what kind of authors they are, who their audience is, what their goal is. But on LinkedIn, similar to Facebook, you can share posts, which are the shorter updates. You can write an article, which is longer. You can use your summary, which is now called the about, to talk more about what you're doing. If you look at my summary, it's very much a call to action and then a bio, and that's a structure that anybody can adapt for themselves. And then also the positions on LinkedIn are a great way to get visibility.
Mhm.
You've probably seen, how I use the positions to really get the word out about what I'm doing.
Yeah,
Does that
absolutely.
make sense?
It does. And, one thing I'm really excited about that I love most about, well, two things that kind of go together is that LinkedIn really leads with words, especially the written word, whether it is the long form posts that are very popular there, where people are just really composing their thoughts and opinions on subjects, some of them like super long. And unlike Facebook, where I think you might lose a few people because Facebook's very visual and photo and image oriented, and Instagram, obviously, even more so, LinkedIn, that kind of behavior, that kind of, writing behavior is rewarded, and especially articles. Like we have issues, obviously, on Facebook with we're not seeing all of our friends' posts. We're not seeing, because of the algorithms, and page posts have kind of gone the way of the wind. They've disappeared. But LinkedIn, you really
Right.
see everything. I love the visibility of LinkedIn, that you see everything that your friends are doing, especially articles. So when someone posts an article on LinkedIn, you see immediately so-and-so just published an article. And of course, I love they use the word published an article. And I think as
Right.
authors, we have a gigantic, enormous, and I'm going to emphasize this a lot. As authors, we have such a huge advantage that LinkedIn leads with the written word, and articles receive so much visibility because there are so many business people that would love nothing more than to have the gift of writing, the skill of writing. You guys, we have
Right.
that. So LinkedIn is just, it's insanely awesome.
Right, right, right. And one thing too to be aware of, and I wrote about this recently. I don't know if you saw my article or not.
Probably.
um, but LinkedIn has they have an algorithm like Facebook does.
Mhm.
And so there's a window right now because LinkedIn used to have, or Facebook used to have a lot more, you used to get a lot more visibility. And then
Mhm.
it became pay to
Pay to
play.
play. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
P2P, right?
Yep.
um,
Same thing with
so,
Instagram.
and yeah, so LinkedIn has developed a new algorithm. And and there's, if you go to my website or you go to my LinkedIn profile, you'll see the article that I've written about it there, and links to other articles. But basically what LinkedIn is favoring with the algorithm is they're looking for 3 hashtags
Hmm.
and 5 at mentions. So, a hashtag for your authors, for example, would be, fiction, nonfiction, business. It's like keywords, right?
Yeah.
The hashtags are like keywords. And then, the at mention would be, like you could have at mentioned me
Yeah.
announcing, I'm so excited that, you're going to come talk to my group,
Yeah. Like shout outs, really.
and then, yeah, and then, if there were members of your group that you wanted to give visibility to, then you could, at mention, Tanya and Sherry and Alan
Mm-hmm.
and Allie and Chris, and so then that would be the 5.
Yeah. Great
And then
advice.
the hashtags for you would be like author, whatever your hashtags are. So
Yeah.
that helps you
Yeah.
get more visibility
Yeah.
and just a lot of engagement
Mm-hmm.
helps the algorithm.
It does. I mean, there's some where I've made friends with, I guess, some very influential people on LinkedIn, and just doing that just has kind of blown up my presence there. And just, in terms of hashtags, I mean, I do really well just with authors, books, publishing as the 3.
Yeah,
I was actually,
yeah,
I've actually been chosen. I get, how does it, you'll have to tell me how it works, by the LinkedIn admins a few times where I've been trending at
yeah,
various posts I've done. I've trended in books a few times.
yeah. Super. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, they that's all like handpicked. They have like a team. They don't, it's not like, yeah, yeah. So congratulations on that. Yeah, and definitely, that's something that I would definitely take advantage of. Like you're engaging with everybody who comments and all that, right?
Oh, big time. I mean, just huge conversations. And it's funny, like the first time it happened, one of my relationships over there let me know, like he took a screenshot of, because it showed up on his feed that I was trending in books, and he's like, congratulations. And I'm like, okay. I had no idea what he was
Yeah,
talking about.
yeah. Well, and they do that too because they're marketing it, so you get all excited and go in and engage with your content,
Yeah,
right?
it's great.
Because they their whole reason for living is to get you to go to their site.
Correct.
That's the whole point for the notifications and everything, So it's like a game, and it gives you good visibility. So great, you
Yeah.
know.
And I
That's
didn't know that about the
that's
5 ats. So yeah, I'm going to definitely look up that article. I'll post, you know what, I'll post your article in the Inc. authors group as well, or you
oh
can.
super,
I will actually.
yeah,
I knew about the hashtag,
yeah.
about the 5 ats. That's good.
Yeah, yeah, and it's the LinkedIn algorithm is kind of like the Facebook algorithm, like the Google algorithm. It changes, and not everything is disclosed, and I mean, and the most important thing, bottom line, and I think I mentioned this in your group, was provide value.
Yep.
Provide relevant value to your ideal clients and do it consistently. Gary Vaynerchuk says, post 100 things a day,
Yeah,
right? But if you're an author, sorry.
his $1.85 strategy.
Yeah, yeah. I've tried that, and I think in some markets it works better than others.
Yeah, really
Um,
imagine.
Yeah, I mean, for me with LinkedIn, I tried it because I try everything, and I love Gary. I think he's great, and I think the whole consistently create valuable content is absolutely spot on. And for your authors, I mean, they have ready-made content, right? If they have, they can take pieces from their books
Yep.
and, just a little piece. You just want to give an appetizer,
Yep.
and then drive to like Amazon or whatever you want the next step to be,
Yeah.
you
I mean, they
know.
could, and I talk about this. I mean, I think a book is the ultimate kind of messaging bank that you can constantly be making
Right,
withdrawals from. And you could post literally, I mean, if you really did this, you could literally post your entire book as LinkedIn articles. And it's not like you'd be giving away your book for free because not everybody would see all of them. So you have a lot of
right.
leeway, you have a lot of just flexibility there. And then, the other thing that I like to encourage authors to do is all the material from your book that went onto the cutting room floor as you were writing,
Hmm.
that got edited out, hold on to that, and that is valuable content later that can be used as kind of a magnet to attract people to the book itself. So again, going back to my
Hmm.
point that as authors we have a huge advantage because we know how to write, and a lot of people on LinkedIn are really struggling with that.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the authors are in the best position on LinkedIn,
Yeah,
and then videos coming up as well. So that's something that to look at as it evolves with
I should do a
the
video
LinkedIn
today while
Live.
I look presentable. I should do a video today. I look like a
There
human.
you go. There you go. I've done that too. I'm like, oh, I've done the whole, hair, makeup, jewelry, everything. So I'm gonna make the most of it.
I look less like an author than ever. Okay.
Look good. And you have a YouTube channel, right?
Yes, I have all the things.
Okay.
I
Perfect.
don't have TikTok. I don't
Yeah.
have TikTok, but that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Good. Good.
What would you say? So we did that. What are your best practices for building a following on LinkedIn?
To build a following on LinkedIn, the my best practices would be, obviously you want to, lead with value, and make what you're doing on LinkedIn all about your ideal client. So how can you provide value to them? How can you help them? How can you position yourself as an expert? How can you help them get the results that they want? So, as an author, your audience is wanting to be, depending on the book, they're wanting to be educated, or they're wanting to be entertained,
Hmm.
you know, and so that's like an overarching tip. And then just share content, you know, um, with the articles and the posts, and then also grow your contacts. If you're, as an author, if you're specifically looking at certain people who you want to engage, then reach out to them on LinkedIn. Go in and see who's your second degree connection, and send them an invitation, and just make it super simple. Just say, Christine, we have contacts in common. Would you like to connect? I mean, you're just wanting them to have coffee with you. You don't want them to get married. You don't want to get married and have 20 babies, right? That's like down the line. Um, and then, engage with them. It's like having a conversation. If you meet someone at a cocktail party, you have a conversation. You find out about them, find out what's important to them. And again, it depends on what your goal is, what you're looking for. If you're wanting to sell books, then it's maybe you want to look at somebody to connect with on LinkedIn who's going to buy in bulk. Like, if you have a motivational book, then maybe, someone who has a huge MLM presence, for example. It all comes down to knowing your audience. And then where can you plug that in on LinkedIn and find them and engage with them?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what are your LinkedIn do's and don'ts, especially don'ts, because I think you and I both see the kind of some of the questionable behavior on LinkedIn, but I'm interested in hearing your do's and don'ts.
Yeah, yeah. So, something that's really become extremely prevalent, probably in the last 6 months or so, is people sending an invitation to connect and pitching in the invitation.
Mm,
And I'm sure you've seen that too. It's like, oh, let's set up a call. Here's my website, and it's like all about them,
yeah, and I don't
and
know
for
you yet.
me,
We haven't had coffee, and you're asking me, and
yeah,
what it's a
you're wanting to
long-term
sleep with
relationship.
me. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, so that's one thing I would say, when you send an invitation, just keep it simple, like the template that I gave you earlier. You're not wanting to sell yet, because sometimes people's LinkedIn profiles are not even what they're doing right now. And like for me, I get invitations, oh, you're in real estate, oh, you're in financial services, and I'm like, obviously you didn't look at my profile, because those are my clients, you
Yeah.
know so, and then a trick is, if somebody sends you like a super spammy invitation, then there are three little dots up at the top right of the
Mm,
invitation, and you can mark it as, now it's called mark it as inappropriate, and then you can say this was spam.
wow.
So that's contributing to LinkedIn hygiene, as they would say.
Oh, okay. I didn't know about that. I just usually ignore
Yeah,
them. So that's cool.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so that's one thing. And just, and the whole like pitching spammy marketing salesy thing on LinkedIn, I really don't recommend that at all, because you're wanting to create relationships and build trust. And I mean, if I'd like been spammy with you on LinkedIn, then we wouldn't be having this conversation,
Yeah.
you
And
know.
I think authors, we're more likely to be on the opposite end of that, of being so introverted that the challenge is making our presence known, because authors are used to being alone, and there's the introverted side.
Yeah,
So any tips for that? Like authors that just, and it's the same thing on Facebook. I just hear a lot more of like, oh, I don't want to
yeah,
intrude. I don't want to annoy people. I don't really want to talk about my book or whatever. And that's why I think LinkedIn
right.
is great, because of the content. You can just write about your book and not talk about your book. But yeah, other introverted tips for LinkedIn.
Sure, sure. So, I mean, like in your about, you can talk about your book. In your updates, you can talk about your book, and you're just sharing so that people know, because maybe somebody's looking for something to educate them or entertain them.
Mhm.
Um, and when you're engaging with somebody on messages, just make it all about them. It's like being at a cocktail party. If you make it all about them and don't talk about yourself at all, then it's a lot easier, because it takes the focus off of you, and you don't have to do the talking, because you're just asking questions.
Yeah.
So you can ask somebody, what are your favorite business books?
Hmm.
Or just something like that, something just along the lines of what you want to talk about, but not saying buy my book,
Yeah.
you know and then it makes it more of a conversation, and then you can decide where you want to take it. If they say, oh, I don't read, they're like Gary Vaynerchuk, they're like, I don't read,
Yeah.
then you kind of know, well, that's not maybe an avenue I want to go down. But he has tremendous influence on books, and has like authors on his podcast all the time, and
Yeah.
pushes their books. So that's where the whole conversation comes in, because there are opportunities. When you talk to somebody, you'll discover opportunities that you might not otherwise see if you just looked at their profile.
Yeah, and that's a great point you brought up about podcasts, because when we're figuring out as authors who our target audience is, in addition to our readers, don't overlook podcasts. Especially there's a lot of podcasts out there, like you were saying, that feature authors. So when you're on LinkedIn,
Right,
you're looking to see who you want to connect with, who you want to have, the cocktail party conversation with, who you want to engage with. Don't just limit it to potential readers or potential customers if they're buying a program that's an offshoot of your book. Look at podcasts and publicity opportunities. Well, the podcast hosts are constantly looking for guests. I know I just connected with him
exactly.
yesterday, and he wants to meet literally every single one of my authors. He needs so many guests. So podcast
Hmm.
podcast hosts, and just, kind of thinking outside the box like that. Who else who else is really interested in talking to you, because they're really interested in talking to authors.
Right. Right. Yeah. And you can do a search on LinkedIn in the upper left, use the search bar and type in like business podcasts or something like that and see what comes up. And then you can just, then look and see who's your second degree connection, and send them an invitation, and just get that conversation going. And it can just be really fun and organic, because you're just finding out what other people are doing who are kind of in the same area as you are. If somebody's looking for business books, then your book could change their lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
so it's very powerful.
Awesome. I'm going to unmute everybody now, so you can feel free to mute yourself if you have strange things happening in your background or whatever. I know I have pets, so sometimes strange things happen in the background. But I'm going to hit, so all participants, you guys are all unmuted now. Feel free to mute yourself back if you're uncomfortable with that. But I'm going to open up the floor to questions for Christine H. now.
Super. Thank you. Thanks for being here, everyone. I'm looking forward to your questions.
Anybody? And I'm going to look at the chat window too, if you don't want to.
Like Sherry does. Sherry's waving.
But I didn't want to. I have a habit of a wonderful gift of starting to talk just as another person talks. So
it happens all the time here. Go ahead, Sherry.
So I have very little experience on LinkedIn. I do have a profile on there. I have no idea how it got on there. I think maybe my daughter put it up there for me 10 years ago, because it's a cute picture. I'm like, I haven't seen that in a few. Anyway, so I was taking copious notes, and one of the things I didn't understand was you talked about different features to use, like posts, articles, summary about, and then you said I use the positions. What's the positions?
Sure. So the position, so LinkedIn, this is like one of the ways that I hack LinkedIn, in the best way. So
shortcuts.
The positions, LinkedIn was created for people in HR and recruiters, right? So it's very, resume focused, that sort of thing. So how can you use that? I looked at it and I was like, how can I use this to get more visibility? And so I've hacked the positions. And what I mean by that is, when I have a new, like for you, when you have when your book is available, or you're pre-selling it, then add that as a position on your profile and add it with your keywords. And what happens then, and if you look at my profile, you'll see how I've done that with like new clients and speeches and that sort of thing. And what happens then is that, and Christine can attest to this because she's no doubt been on the receiving end of it, then all your contacts get notified that you have a new position, so they congratulate you. And it's all just, automated. But then you have an opportunity to engage with them. And so you say, thanks, I'm so excited that my book will be available soon. What are your favorite business books? And just get that conversation started. And this is something too that you can do. I have a special file that I have set up for templates. So, I'll get, depending on how many contacts you have, I'll get hundreds of congratulations. So I just do the same template. I say, Christine, thanks, excited to work with my new client in Australia. Is there anything I can do for you? Or how are you using LinkedIn? Or, that's where you ask the open-ended question to start the conversation going. Does that make sense?
If you wanted to do some target market research, you had questions for people. So, one of my past career that I had, in which I was paid, I was a nonprofit fundraiser.
Okay.
So, there seems to be not adequate either training or ability for new fundraisers to find certain information. So later when I create a little program for that, I'm wondering how I'd be able to find fundraisers, professional fundraisers at various levels in their career, whether they're just starting out or seasoned.
Mm-hmm.
How do you go about sort of polling people or asking them certain questions that may be questions that would also be helpful for them to think about it, but
Mm-hmm.
is that a feature or a way that you could use LinkedIn?
Sure. So you can, there are different ways you can do that. You can post something about it. So a short, just a short little update. You can write an article. You can create a position like, fundraising, success training or something like that, whatever you want to call it. And then when people write you just to congratulate you, then you can say, ask them a question about it. If you're looking at targeting specifically people in fundraising, then you could do a search and reach out to those people and connect with them and say, use the template, Christine, we have contacts in common. Would you like to connect? And then, Sherry, and then when they come back, then you send them a welcome message, which will completely differentiate you from everybody else out there on LinkedIn. Because if people do send welcome messages now, they're like completely spammy and salesy and slamming you with a link. So what you do to differentiate yourself and build the relationship is you say, Christine, thanks so much for trusting me to connect. And then you ask an open-ended question. So then you say something about how do you train yourself for fundraising, or how do you, something that's where you can kind of start the survey process.
Yeah,
Does
that's
that
cool.
make sense?
Yeah, and so for me, there's lots of sales training out there, and
Right.
there's lots of get your head in the game. Get your daily routines in place and your
Right.
systems, all of that. I'm more interested in how fundraisers kind of gear up for the battle every day instead of really, this is how you run a capital campaign. I can do all that too,
Yeah.
but there's lots of information about that. There
Right.
is a lot of information about really thinking about, how tough the job can be, and that
Right.
it's very different than sales. And so,
right.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean that's something that you could ask in that first question if you feel comfortable with it. You can say, I'm curious, soften it by saying, I'm curious, ... How do you gear up for a day of fundraising? Or, and that's where your industry knowledge comes in.
Right.
It's like you're going to a giant conference where there are a bunch of fundraisers, and how are you going to, just start a conversation with someone?
Yeah.
They've already said that they want to talk to you because they accepted your invitation.
Yeah. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, and then that's too where the same things as for authors apply, your headline, your about, your positions and that sort of thing, so that when they look at your profile, then they see you as someone who's expert, who's legitimate, who's credible, who they want to be connected with, who's not going to spam them.
Very good.
Does
And
that make sense?
Yeah, I'm going to say it does. Yeah, I like that open-ended question thing. I like the quick intro, and people love talking about themselves, so that's another advantage.
Exactly.
People also love talking about the books they're reading, so that was a question you mentioned earlier.
Right.
A great open-ended question, what are you reading? People love talking about what they're reading. And you just reminded me, I have about 3 new positions to add that I think. Thanks for the reminder. I totally forgot.
Okay, yeah. And so when you add those positions to Christine, you want to give a week in between each one, because otherwise, so you'll get more traction and you won't be so crazy.
Yeah.
Because you'll get a ton of inbound messages.
I know.
Yeah. And then also a formula that I use that's I mean, it's taken from cold calling basically, but it's kind of hacking LinkedIn with it, is you just want short little conversations on LinkedIn. You don't want War and Peace, it's not Anna Karenina and all that, right? So if somebody wants a longer conversation, then you get on the phone, right?
Yeah.
So I just follow the formula. I just acknowledge and I ask an open-ended question that drives the conversation forward in the direction I want it to go. So I say, Christine, thanks for trusting me to connect, acknowledge. And then I say, I'm curious, how are you using LinkedIn? And that's the open-ended question.
Yeah, cool.
And initially always use the person's first name because that's their favorite word in any language.
That's a good point. All right. Well, thanks for that question, Sherry. Opening up for additional questions, including people that just want to be on chat. You can go ahead and put your question in the chat window and we'll answer it. But yeah, and anybody, questions?
I'm new to LinkedIn. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi, Alan.
Can you even see you?
When I say new to LinkedIn, I'm new to computers.
Okay.
I lost my eyesight 10 years ago, and I wasn't really on a computer at that time. So it's only in the last 5 years after surgery that I've got basic vision, and I'm only just learning Facebook at this time.
Sure.
And it's taken me 2 years to get a video off an iPad onto Facebook. So I have a profile on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
I've got about 30 people that have linked to me. I have never linked to anybody else.
Right.
So I hear these things about hashtags.
Right.
I haven't got a clue what you're talking about.
Sure.
But what would you say is the first thing I have to do to make progress? One thing at a time. That's all I can go with.
Sure. So I'll answer your question with the hashtags is the same as the pound symbol. So that's just the evolution of.
Yeah, but I've seen it. I don't know what it does.
So it's like an index. So all the posts that have to do with like author, those are all, you could find all of them by searching for hashtag author.
Okay.
Yeah. So it just categorizes. So like I use a hashtag LinkedIn a lot because when people search for LinkedIn, I want to make sure that I come up.
Ah.
Does that make sense?
Do you have to create your own?
No, you can just it's like your keyword on your website. So what kind of an author are you, Alan?
A new one.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, like, are you writing business books? Are you writing fantasy? Are you writing nonfiction?
I've just done a personal development book.
Okay.
And I've just got to produce a photograph, and then a book on public speaking can go to the publisher.
Okay, perfect.
But I'm doing a cycle ride the full length of England and Scotland to raise money. So that's another one I'll be writing about, and I'm writing about my life story.
Okay, super. So I mean, hashtags to start with would be, personal development, public speaking, cycling. Just as a start. And then and your second question was, what's the one thing you can do to get started?
Correct.
What's your goal again?
I'm only writing books now. I'm 74. I'm retired, so I don't really do anything else.
Sure. So what's your goal with being on LinkedIn?
Hopefully sell a book or two.
Okay. So what you can do, and this is a total LinkedIn hack, you can make a mini billboard for your book in your headline, and then use your about section, which is 2,000 characters, to promote your book and promote yourself. And if you look at my biography, my profile and my about, you can use that same model. And the easiest way to use it is to cut and paste what I have there, cut and paste it into Word, and then just change it so it works for you. Because I've used the 2,000 characters, like, as many, I think I'm at 1,999 characters or something like that. So you don't have to my point is you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Excellent.
And those are, and then obviously in the positions, with your books, you want to have those as positions. So your headline, your about, and your positions, those are three things, but they're basically the same. And then the articles, have an article about your book as well. And the thing about the articles that's really, really powerful is that they're searchable on all of LinkedIn, they're searchable on all of Google, and they stay on your profile, so they don't drop off like the updates do. And I mean, I'm still getting business from articles I posted years ago on LinkedIn.
Awesome. I love our
Yeah. They're very powerful. So that's just a kind of quick down and dirty LinkedIn hack to sell books.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Sure, my pleasure. Thank you.
Speaking of the keywords, Christine, yeah, you mentioned, is there any kind of tool on LinkedIn where you can kind of, research keywords? I know we can do this, for Google keywords and things like that, but is there anything that can kind of tell you what kind of traffic goes to which keywords, hashtags on LinkedIn?
Sure. So again, with the search bar, you can go in and it will tell you how many followers a certain hashtag has.
Okay.
So, and I think it's on the left side of your home page, it will show the hashtags that you're following. And then if you click on those, it's kind of a rabbit hole that you have to go down, and LinkedIn is always changing everything. But, obviously you're going to want, a keyword that has 1 million followers versus a keyword that has 10 followers, unless it's super specific, So that's what I would recommend.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah. And I've looked at that before, so I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything. And yeah, I mean, for anybody just like when in doubt, like if you just really don't know where to begin, again, the 3 that I found that have been just fine is hashtag authors, hashtag books, hashtag publishing. So when in doubt, I think those 3 are really solid.
Yeah. I mean, there's always like you can start somewhere, and if somebody's in your niche and they they have really great visibility, look at the hashtags that they're using.
That's good.
And model their success.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions for Christine H or Christine W? Any of the Christines? It's been great, by the way. I like that. And I mean, the position reminder, it's like I knew it, but then I like forgot it. And now, and like you said, don't do them all at the same time. My inbox would crash.
Right. Yeah. Well, and you want to make sure that you get as much traction from that as you can, So, yeah.
The next 3 weeks, you'll see new positions from me.
Oh, good. I'll say, what a surprise. I didn't know.
That's awesome. Well, thank you very much, Christine. And I'm going to keep you as a member of Inc. Authors, if you don't mind, because we not only have authors. Yeah, we not only have authors in Inc. Authors on Facebook, we have resources to authors. So you'll see in there, folks like you that you're a LinkedIn expert. We have publicists, publishers, graphic designers, people that create online programs, marketing and website experts. So Inc. Authors has a lot more than authors of varying stages, all the way from people thinking about writing a book through, we have, New York Times bestselling authors in there. So full range of levels of experience and all.
Wonderful.
So feel free, everybody, additional questions that you come up with for Christine H., go ahead and go into Inc. Authors and, ask your question, tag her in your question so she can see it.
Make sure you tag me so I see it.
Exactly. That's exactly, we can get lost in there. So yeah, make sure you tag Christine Hueber in your Inc. Authors question, and we'll keep the conversation going there.
Super. I look forward to it. Thanks so much for having me, Christine. Yeah, it's been wonderful.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us, and I'll see everybody in Inc. Authors.
Oh.